My name is Gage Averill. I'm the Provost and Vice President Academic, UBC Vancouver. And every year at Congregation, UBC has the honor of bestowing honorary degrees upon individuals who, in the opinion of the university community, have fit the criteria of excellence and eminence in their chosen field. William Gibson is one of those individuals, and I invite him to step forward to receive his honorary degree. Mr. Vice Chancellor, it is with an extra measure of pride that we today honor one of our own graduates who sat in this hall, like you all are doing, well, not this hall, but on the university, some years ago, and graduated. He graduated from the Faculty of Arts. William Gibson emerged as a science fiction writer in the 1980s and has since produced an extensive body of work, including novels, short fiction, nonfiction, and screenplays. And as a lifelong fan of speculative fiction, I hope you will just forgive me a tiny bit if I get a little fanboy here on this. His first novel, Neuromancer, introduced both the now commonplace notion of cyberspace and the term itself. Yes, it had an origin. It has been described as one of the more influential novels of the late 20th century, inspiring a new genre in science fiction writing referred to as cyberpunk. Neuromancer was also the first novel ever to win all three of the most prestigious awards in science fiction: the Hugo, the Nebula, and the Philip K. Dick Awards. Quite an extraordinary accomplishment for any writer, let alone, at that point, a newcomer to the genre. Throughout the course of his career, he has drawn international acclaim for both his work and his prescient views, perhaps best exemplified by his depictions of both the internet and virtual reality before either existed. And I challenge you to find a television show or a movie now that, in the realm of speculative fiction, that doesn't draw on the ideas of the gentleman that we have on stage with us here today. His works have been adapted into movies, TV series, and stage plays. He's a featured speaker at a wide range of conferences and a favored source for journalists and other writers researching the reciprocal links between technology, society, and I would say society's future. Mr. Vice Chancellor, in recognition of his accomplishments and influence in modern literature and the arts, I ask you to confer the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa, upon William Gibson.
By authority of the Senate of this university, I confer upon you, William Gibson, the title and degree, Doctor of Letters, honoris causa. Congratulations.
It gives me great pleasure now to ask Dr. Gibson to say a few words.
Mr. President, honored guests, graduates, family and friends, hello. Thank you. The person most responsible for UBC being my alma mater is undeniably my wife, Deborah, here with us today. When we first met in Toronto, friends mentioned her prior career as a fashion model. I came to realize that prevailing winds of counterculture had also blown her away from a double major in English literature and linguistics here at UBC, which would have explained her ability to recite the entirety of Eliot's Ash Wednesday as we trod along, the two of us, over freshly fallen snow, holding hands for the first time. Reading that yesterday, she pointed out that it sounds like one of social media's ideas of a very bad date indeed. It certainly wasn't for me. She was from Vancouver, a city I knew almost nothing else about. After an extended premarital European honeymoon, largely inaffordable, i.e. fascist nations, we'd returned to Toronto and gotten married, handily facilitating my permanent immigration from the United States. Following the October crisis, as we watched Toronto changing in ways neither of us liked, she began to tell me more about Vancouver, more about UBC specifically, as she'd begun to dream of completing her BA there with an eye on a postgraduate degree, which she would, earning a master's in linguistics, and a couple of decades later, a PhD, both here at UBC. Without understanding any of the geography, I learned that she'd grown up in Deep Cove, Vancouver having been her first taste of the big city. Nothing could have been further from my own plans, had I had any, than enrolling in UBC. Writing this in the 21st century, I find myself searching for an emoji that doesn't exist, one with red hearts around it, standing for my urge to follow Deborah's academic energy in my own less energetic way. My thanks are due to Langara College for offering night school courses that demonstrated my potential, or lack of same, to UBC, where I was then admitted to freshman arts, with the proviso that I never enroll in a math or hard science course. I must also thank two members of the UBC English department, both deceased, for their essential help in my having become the writer I became. The late Dr. Susan Wood, who taught the first course in science fiction to be offered at UBC, which I attended, cunningly tricked me into writing, rather than an essay, a short story, but only provided that I finish it, a major first for me. She then refused to give me a mark on the story until I had submitted it to a paying market, whether successfully or not. While I managed to accomplish this as obscurely as possible, choosing a tiny magazine that only published first sales, my story sold for $35 and my professional career began. My gratitude to the late Dr. John Doheny takes a traditionally more academic form, as he taught me the difference between naturalism and realism hence how realism could serve fascism, but naturalism couldn't. Naturalism being a revolutionary modality and realism merely a technique. He used hard-boiled detective fiction, so-called, to demonstrate this, and I immediately, with great excitement, applied his theory to science fiction. I can't imagine having written the fiction I've written without these underlying critical distinctions. Talking about writing fiction here makes me feel self-conscious, as our other honored guests are being rewarded for having accomplished remarkably good things in the real world. I look forward to hearing more from them. Thank you.